All right, everybody. Shalom and welcome to the Yishai Fleischer Show, broadcasting live, this time really, really live from the land of Israel, from Judea, Israel, beautiful Judea, Israel. After the high holidays, we had Sukkot, we had, the special days, the high holy days, and now yet another holiday here in Israel, in a sense, and that is the election of Donald J. Trump in the United States. You might say, what does it have to do with you? Maybe it's not your election at all. And I have friends who say, we shouldn't really take part in it. But most people understand that the American presidency has a tremendous impact on the policies here in the land of Israel and around the world. The policies that have to do with the fight against the jihad, the fight against the Iranian mullah regime, the fight for biblical values and conservative values, and also another fight, which is the fight for the support of Israel or the fight against Israel, right? There are different forces in this world, and there's certainly different forces in the United States. I want to show you a video that I saw just a few days before the elections, which I think gives a little bit of a hint as to what was in stake in the American elections. This is a lady, this video was sent to me about a lady giving her opinion about what the Harris administration would continue to do from the Biden administration. Take a look.
Jewish Americans, as you contemplate Election Day, please keep in mind these 4 recent whammies. Thank you, Shabbos Kestenbaum, for bringing them to the forefront of our minds. In the last 5 days, the Harris White House has 1. Called for an arms embargo against Israel. 2. Leaked Israel's classified plans to strike Iranian military sites. 3. Agreed that Israel is committing genocide. 4. Refused again to meet with Jewish students fighting anti-Semitism. American Jews, this is the most important election of our lifetime. I'm just a small somebody with big opinions and a strong desire to speak out for truth. It boils down to this. Kamala Harris is Iran's candidate for U.S. president. Ask yourselves why that is. Do your due diligence, follow the money, read and research, and then ask yourselves how she can be the right choice if you're a Jew. It's that simple.
All right, so I think that these are indeed very strong opinions, but I think there's a lot of truth there. There was a call for an arms embargo. There was a recognition of so-called genocide by Israel. And so we were going to get 4 more years of this. Not to mention the slamming Israeli citizens with personal mini blockades, with sanctions. These were painful and powerful things against Israel, and really with the ideology that Israel should shrink. This was a constant refrain that the 2-state solution is the only way forward. And so for Israel, there was a lot at stake here. Not to mention that the Biden and Obama administrations moved a lot of money over to Iran, got rid of the sanctions on Iran, on the mullah regime, and instead basically shipped a lot of money over to them, somewhere in the vicinity of $250 billion. Iranian regime became much stronger, and then basically we are now in a fight with Iranian proxies. So this was a very big deal for Israel and pro-Israel people, not to mention other issues, immigration into the United States, and a host of other issues. Let me give you a little picture, another short video of what people felt like when they heard the news that Donald Trump is the victor in the United States. This was a compilation video that was made by Jewish groups. Okay, so the point of that video, obviously, it's a little bit of a joke, but the point is that Jewish groups put Jewish music onto the dancing of Trump, because this was a day of great victory. And basically all of my friends were like, congratulations. Even the ones that have some concerns we're like, listen, the world is a better place today. The world's a better place today. And the Quran writes, make the Abraham Accords great again. That's another truth. And our producer Yocheved put up this. Let me see that for one more second, Yocheved. That is an important memory of what the first Trump administration did, which was bring upon us a new pathway for peace in the Middle East that didn't come through shrinking Israel, but rather through the bigness of Israel. And the idea was the Abraham Accords. Israel is an ancestral nation, an indigenous nation. And we're going to live here. And countries that want to move forward are going to work with us. All right, so let's bring on our first guest. We have with us a good friend of mine. His name is Gideon Israel. He's the author of Broken Values, which is a book you can find on Amazon. The link is also in our description of this video. And he's also the president of the Jerusalem Washington Center. And he's also been mostly a soldier for the last year. Gideon Israel, thank you so much for coming to the show. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Always good to be with you, Yishai.
You know, Gideon, you have had a full day of media appearances. I want to show yourself, actually, just for a second, on I-24. No, excuse me, on Channel 14 yesterday.
הצליחה לייצר בסופו של דבר כמועמדים סופיים זה קמלה האריס ודונלד טראמפ. אמריקה הגדולה, זה אומר משהו הסיפור הזה קודם כל על אמריקה, שני המועמדים האלה שהגיעו.
So the host is saying, like, these are the two people that are the candidates, Kamala Harris and Donald
בסופו של
Trump.
דבר לישורת האחרונה.
פידר מניו יורק, תודה.
Okay.
תודה.
אני יכול לשאול אותך שאלה?
בבקשה.
יש
And here comes Gideon Israel, and you've got a question to ask the folks there at the Channel 14 studio.
שאלות, אבל יאללה, אני זורם איתך,
חשוב, כי זה טרנד כזה, יש טרנד כזה באולפנים, נגיד, מה, אמריקה גדולה, זה מה שיש להם, קמלה האריס ודונלד טראמפ, זה מה שהם מייצרים, אני חייב לשאול.
Okay, so the question you're asking is, there's this trend to kind of make fun of these two candidates, Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. Couldn't America, produce better candidates? And you're like, you're challenging him on making fun that these are the only two candidates that America was able to put out.
בצד של דונלד טראמפ. תסתכל על השנים, על הקדנציה הראשונה שלו, ותגיד לי, מה כל כך בעייתי בדונלד טראמפ? תסתכל.
Look at his first, how do we call it? His first term. What was so problematic in his policy?
שום דבר, אני לא חושב, אתה מסתכל כאילו בסוף על תמונת המועמדים בסופו של דבר.
אי אפשר להתעלם
רגע.
All that was just now is just being Israeliness. That's just Israeliness trying to finish a whole sentence. That's a great accomplishment here in Israel.
רגע, לא ביחד.
רגע, תן לסיים. בזמן שהוא היה נשיא, בזירה הבינלאומית, איראן כמעט פשטה רגל.
Okay, so at the time that President Trump was president, Iran almost became bankrupt.
היה הסכם שלום במזרח התיכון.
We had a new kind of peace deal in the Middle East, which was the Abraham Accords.
צפון קוריאה הפסיק ניסויים בליסטיים.
North Korea stopped its missile tests.
סין לא איים על טייוואן.
China did not threaten Taiwan.
לא היו כמעט מלחמות. סיים
There was barely any wars.
את דאעש בכמה שבועות.
He finished off ISIS in a few weeks.
הכלכלה פרחה.
The economy flourished.
בארצות הברית.
אתה לא צריך לשכנע אותי כמה דונלד טראמפ היה טוב לישראל ובמדיניות במזרח התיכון.
So now he's coming back and he's saying, you don't have to convince me why Donald Trump was good for Israel in the Middle East.
הילדים שלנו. אבל מבחינת נשיא, מבחינת מנהיג, הוא היה מנהיג גדול מאוד.
So you're saying he may not be a children's role model, but in terms of leadership, he was a great leader.
לכן אני לא מבין למה זה שנכון הוא פוגע בהוא ומעליב את ההוא, אבל מבחינת תחת ביידן.
You're saying don't look at the little things that he may speak in this way or might hurt somebody's feelings. If you actually see the big picture, it's something completely different in terms of policy. And conversely, in the Biden administration, hundreds of thousands of people have been killed in the Ukraine war. In Russia? Is there no importance? And I love what you're doing here. You're giving him a hard time. You're saying, is there no great importance to a president who brings peace to the world?
עדיין אני חושב שהשאלה שלי בעניין הזה הייתה מאוד מאוד
לכן אני
לגיטימית.
חושב
אוקיי.
שלגבי טראמפ הוא באמת מנהיג גדול, נכון? כמו כולנו, הוא פגום באיזשהו מידה.
Okay, like all of us, he's got limitations, but I still think that he's a great leader.
כן, יש אבל
רק אענה.
יש הבדל גדול.
All right, that was a great clip. That was a great clip, Gideon, and I want to just take it off there. And want to tell you that was a great job, and that was a great litany list of policy accomplishments. And here you are live with us, Gideon. So let's first start with how big of a deal is this victory? And of course, remember, we're talking about from our perspective, from Israel, from the Middle East.
Right. So just give me 1 second. When I saw that happening yesterday, I felt like I had to say something because there's this thing that you can't feel proud to support Donald Trump. Everything has to be with yes, but, and I know, but he did that. And you know what? Nobody's saying anybody's perfect, but with all his accomplishments, that's a real leader, and there's something to be proud of. So I felt like I had to get it in, and I also this morning I was on I-24, and as I'm watching in the lobby, until I'm waiting for my turn to get called into the studio, I see Yossi Beilin, Israel's the architect of Oslo, in the studio, and he's making fun of Trump like a little kid in a nursery, and I'm thinking to myself, this guy, Beilin, he's an intellectual, he speaks very nicely. He's the architect of the Oslo Accords, which have only brought death and destruction in the Middle East, and he's making fun of Trump, who brought peace to the world. So when I finally got into the studio, I was happy he was still there. And then I also gave this point again, and I added, and I said, there might be some people who think Donald Trump is a little kid. And I looked at him. I said, but he brought peace to the world. But anyways, to get back to your question,
I just want you to know that I also had an interaction with Yossi Beilin at I-24 Studios, which is like the only studio that keeps this kind of, a dinosaur who brought us disaster alive. But when I did the same thing and challenged him, he just stopped being interviewed. He basically was just like, he didn't want to play anymore. He was just like, I'm not playing this game. Why are you bringing this settler, blah, blah, blah. And he was just done. So he doesn't play nice, but the only place that he plays is, these places where this man that brought death and destruction upon Israel, blithely minimizes exactly with the great list of accomplishments that you made. I'm really very impressed with that list that you came up with, because it really does show very serious policy things that were achieved in those 4 years, and there could have been done even more. What do you think? Okay, so let me get back to my question, but let's get through it quickly.
So
how big is this victory?
So so the importance for Israel, firstly, it's huge, but it didn't really matter who won. Israel had to sort of reassess its relationship with the United States, meaning if Harris had won, Israel would have been in serious trouble, and they would have had to figure out how to really be independent in terms of munitions, in terms of as much as they can militarily, really, really quickly. But with Trump, Israel right now has an opportunity, because Trump is basically, his approach is, listen, I want allies. I want real allies. I want equals. I want countries that can, share the burden of, taking care of their interests and expanding United States interests. So Trump wants a strong Israel in the Middle East that can take care of the problematic countries. He's happy to give diplomatic support, which is the opposite. Most presidents are more than happy to throw money at other countries, but diplomatic support, no. He's happy to give diplomatic support. He's happy to sell you the weapons you need. But after that's done, take care of what you need to take care of. And that's a great opportunity for Israel, but Israel has to rise to the occasion, and it needs to understand that there's a president that's offering it to be an equal. But at the same time, it also has to, what I believe, it has to look at the aid that it's getting now and saying, we need to figure out a way to wean ourselves off the aid, change it to joint cooperation, do something with it, because the relationship needs to be sort of restructured. It can't, for it to prosper under this Trump administration, when Republicans are saying our cities are falling apart, a lot of things are falling apart in America. Why are we giving aid to prosperous countries? So it's an opportunity for Israel to rise to the occasion, to be an equal, and to receive equal treatment, but also to understand that Israel has to take things upon itself. Now, for that to happen, there's something that has to go on in Israel, and that is that especially the Israeli right, because the Israeli left knows what it wants. The Israeli right has to finally decide, who are we and what do we want? What do we want in Lebanon? What do we want in Judea and Samaria? What do we want in Gaza? What do we want vis-a-vis the Arabs who live in Judea and Samaria? They have to figure this out and say it with confidence. And that's what our political leadership needs to do. And if they can do it, and I'm very skeptical, but if they can do it, then we really have a major opportunity with this Trump administration.
Right. So I think what you mean by with confidence is with clarity, i.e. have policy clarity. So let's clear it up right now. For example, when we're talking about Gaza, are we talking about military control of Gaza? Are we talking about military control and civilian resettlement, Jewish resettlement? Are we talking about annexation? Are we talking about giving something like residency to pro-Israel, non-jihadist Arabs? These things have to be said. These have to be done. Just in a Torah sense, we have to leave the behavior pattern of Yaakov, of Jacob, which is more kind of like a tricky, clever, knowing how to balance things, knowing how to say the right things at the right moment, with Yisrael, which means Yashar El, which is straight, clear policy. This is what we got to do. This is what we're doing. We're the sovereigns now. We understand that this is the Jewish state. This is Jewish land. There are minorities living amongst us. This is the status that we can give them. This is what gets them in trouble. Here it is. This is what we're doing. And of course, that makes for good deals. That's what makes for good policy. And what you're saying is Israeli leadership has to now rise up to the opportunity of elucidating and enunciating clear policy that we're going to follow, and we'll have a partner, a global partner, who's going to support that.
Right, because too often I think Israel is kind of defines itself depending on the U.S. administration that is in the White House, and I think the wiggling around, while that's maybe something that needs to be done during an Obama administration because there's really maybe no way to move forward, but it doesn't work with a Trump administration, because if Trump says, well, I want to pursue a peace deal, and you as the prime minister believe that there's really no peace deal that can be achieved with the Arabs in Judea and Samaria, what some people call the Palestinians, but then you say, you know what? Yeah, sure. Try it out. And then finally he spends his time and he comes up with something. And then you say, well, I don't know about this. Well, I don't know about that. Then President like Trump gets angry and says, listen, you're not being serious. You're not,
right.
Let's
clear up what you're saying, in that you're actually talking about a real scenario which happened, which was the Trump administration did the first Trump administration did a lot of important things for Israel, even things that people don't know about. You know about the recognition of Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. You know about the recognition of the Golan Heights, but you might not know that the United States left UNESCO, which is an organization that recognizes international heritage sites. They left that organization because of UNESCO's anti-Hebron decision, which they were going to take the Tomb of the Patriarchs and Matriarchs and make it a Palestinian World Heritage Site. There's just an example of the many things that were done. Malkah and I counted like 18 separate big things that were done. But the Trump administration did run into a big problem when they came up with the deal of the century. The deal of the century was another form of a two-state solution. And Christian folks, pro-Israel ones, have shown that the minute he came out with the new form of a two-state solution, that's when all the troubles in his administration began, and that's where he fell. And all of us would do well to remember that.
Right. Right, and that's, and therefore I hope that that our political leadership can really, like you said, explain what we want with clarity, because there's truly a great opportunity, and like I said in the other clip, anybody who looks for stability in the world, who cares about the U.S.-Israel relationship, has to be so happy that Trump won. And by the way, even though while I said he might not be the babysitter of our kids, I think there's a major lesson to be learned from what Trump did. From in the last 4 years, he went from being someone who he wasn't only in the dump after he was in the dump in January 6th, then he was impeached. And when he in the Senate trial, even 7 Republicans voted for his removal from office, even though he had already finished. And from that low point where, to be connected with him was already, like almost like disgusting. It was toxic. He came from that place to 4 years later reclaim the White House. It's a comeback, unseen in the history of America, maybe in the history of Western countries. Who knows? But that's really something for.
And what do you think about the scope of the victory? It wasn't a hair. It wasn't on a dime. It wasn't close. It was a big old victory, a clear mandate. I heard people on the American left say that on the news broadcast. They were like, "This is big. This is a clear mandate here. This is not a almost." Right. This is not, you can't say, well, he won this kind of vote, but he won the electoral college, but he didn't win the popular vote. Like, this was a big old clarity, a win and a clarity. Is that correct? Do you see it that way?
I mean, even though sometimes 70 or 80 electoral votes can be decided by 100,000 votes, listen, he's won the popular vote, which is which is, I think they're saying that he's going to win the popular vote. So that's pretty big. The reason, by the way, he's winning the popular vote is because in states like Florida, which were, just a few years ago, they were states that were decided by 0.5%, 1%. He won by, I think, almost like 14%. And in general, the Trump campaign and the Republican Party had established a serious ground game of signing up Republicans, more and more people to the Republican Party all over the country. And therefore, he was really able to run up the score in a lot of, traditional Republican states. So, I think, I mean, not only did he win the presidency, the Republicans are now in control of the Senate. It looks like they might even finish with 53 senators, which is very big. And the House hasn't been decided, but it's listen, it's a real victory. It's
right.
A real victory.
All right. I want to say hi to all the folks out there watching us right now. I want to thank the folks that are working with me, Yocheved, my producer, and Elazar as well. Thank you very much for being on the team. And I want to tell people that your chats are so welcome, and we're having a conversation in community. I will be able to put up super chats to discuss the issues and the questions that you have for Gideon Israel. Here's Adam E. on a super chat saying Trump is on the record that he wants the war done before he assumes office. Do you have any concerns, as I do, about these type of statements? Thank you, Adam. What do you think, Gideon?
I think conventional wisdom and traditional wisdom is that long wars are never good, and I think Trump sees a war that's been going on for a year, and he says, like, what's going on? Either, Gaza's a pretty small place. Either you win it or you don't win it, because Trump doesn't understand these wars that are fought as sort of a combination of SWAT team operations, which is essentially what the Israeli army is doing in Gaza. SWAT operation here, SWAT operation there. Trump understands war as you come in with all the power, with overwhelming force. You bomb the daylights out of the enemy. And
okay, get on that makes sense, but still, Adam's question is still okay. I'm glad you see it that way, but I've got my war that I'm fighting, and this is what I got right now for whatever reasons. Are you going to tell Israel what to do? And I think Adam has a point. I think that
I sorry, I don't think Trump is gonna. I don't think Trump is gonna tell Israel what to do. I think when he gets into office, the war is not over for whatever reason. I think he'll say, "Listen, how about we set, a 3-month period, a 4-month period? I'll give you all you need. You tell me what you need to win. I'll give it to you, and let's finish it." Because at the end of the day, a war between Israel and the Muslim countries, it is taxing on the United States, because the United States is leveraging all these relationships. So therefore,
but it's not a war with the Muslim countries. It's a war with Iran and its proxies, and that's the big question. Will President Trump, and I think he was clear about it, and I think he will he help us continue to prosecute this war until the destruction of the enemies of Israel? And here I agree with you what you said previously, which it needs Israeli clarity to speak it that way. We have to say our goal is not to have some kind of a middle ground and some kind of neutral situation where we're not totally victorious. We want total victory. We need your help against these Iranian proxies and against Iran itself. And I hope that one of the first things that happen is that sanctions are levied back against Iran, and that sanctions, of course, are dropped against Jewish Israeli civilians who are doing nothing but resettling the Israeli heartland. Okay, let's put up that question again. Says Ugly Boy. I don't know why you would call yourself that, Ugly Boy. You're not ugly. You're beautiful, especially because you're with us today. He said, let the Kurds have Gaza. They need a homeland. It will be great for Israel's defense culture. I get the point, Ugly Boy, but you got to know that the Kurds have a Kurdish area that they've lived in traditionally. It's in northern Iraq, and it's also next to Turkey. It's next to Syria. It's next to Iran. They don't want to come into Gaza, but I get your point, which is that there are Muslims that are pro-Israel. And you know what the truth is? There are plenty of Gazans, not the majority, but there are plenty of Gazans who are pro-Israel and want a decent life within Israel, and to be residents of Israel and to be part of our defense. So thank you very much for that question. Gideon, I wanted to, before I let you go, because I know you still got to go home after this long day, there's 2 more little things that we got to talk about, 2.5 things. But before the half is this. You mentioned that the Israeli right wing, the Israeli nationalist camp, is happy today. So I wanted to play a video of Minister of National Security, Itamar Ben-Gvir, today from the Knesset stage, from the plenum, speaking from the podium, speaking about the victory of Donald Trump. So he's calling out to the other ministers and the Knesset members and the Speaker of the Knesset. Let's open up with blessings for the new President of the United States,
Donald Trump,
and he says part of the Jewish blessing that God has let us live to this moment, has helped us survive to this moment, and it's a way of saying this is a big deal. This is we bless this moment. So immediately he launches into a litany of policy prescriptions. He said this is the time for Jewish sovereignty in the land of Israel, obviously about Judea and Samaria and Gaza. This is time for total victory. This is time to enact laws of death penalty for terrorists. All kinds of laws that I have no doubt that this president of the United States will see eye to eye with us. Blessings to President Trump, blessings to the state of Israel. With the help of God until the total victory. So there you go. There's one of the important members of this coalition, and certainly a firebrand, Itamar Ben-Gvir, a minister, and he is getting up there, and I think he's the first to jump in there and be like, this is a moment of opportunity to do great things, to move the policy prescriptions forward, and to change Israel, to to bring terror on the terrorists, to hold on to our land. So I thought to myself, wow, I wanted to show you. What do you think of that? What do you think of that appearance of Itamar Ben-Gvir?
I think it was fine. Kind
A
of
little more excitement there. Get on. I know you're tired. Come on.
The fact that I didn't like the sentence that I think the president will be with us, meaning
Eye to eye. He said that he'll see with us eye to eye.
right. You know, but which is because it's like why does the president of the United States have to be involved in the laws that we make in our land? Meaning,
I think is opposed to a different president who would have tried to block. And
right.
For example, our battle in Gaza, saying you're fighting too much in Gaza, you're not doing enough for the civilians, we're going to block weapons. So he's not saying he's going to prove it, but he's not going to give us a hard time and disapprove, I think.
Right.
Okay, Gideon. So I wanted to ask you two more important questions. And I'm going to fire them off for you about the elections. Number one, do you have any concerns about the final moments of the Biden administration? You know what? I'll stick with that.
There's listen, I think that Biden has advisors who are in key positions in the White House who are anti-Israel. They come from pro-Palestinian organizations that don't see Israel as even having a right to exist. And I think that those people in those positions are going to push for various measures against Israel in this final 2 months. Whereas in 2016, the stuff came from Barack Obama, to have the resolution passed at the Security Council without him, United States, doing a veto. I think that something might come from the advisors of Biden pushing him to do something. So there's definitely concern on that front.
I'll tell you what I'm concerned about. Recognition of a Palestinian state. That's something that I think could come down the pipes in the next 2 months, and we're going to have to fight that. And then if God forbid that happens, we're going to have to fight to, like we did with the Iran nuclear deal, to reverse that. But the point is, I think that is a real potential concern for us. Very finally, on the Trump issue, what about the international right-wing movements in Europe, in South America, and other places? Is there a boon? Are we going to see more elections that go in this direction? Are we going to see more folks around the world being like, hey, we're also anti-jihad. We're back to family values. We want to protect our borders. We want to see a strong Israel. Like Germany right now is starting to talk like that. Do you think that this is like a lighthouse moment for European nationalists? And I don't mean Nazis. I mean people who want to see a strong France and a strong Germany and a strong England. Do you think that this is a moment for them to also feel strengthened, just like our nationalist movements seem strengthened?
I think so. I don't know to what degree, but certainly when you see such a unique person like Donald Trump retake the presidency, I don't think it cannot affect you, and I don't think it cannot give people in various countries motivation to believe that they can produce the same grassroots type of movement that can overthrow the current government. So I don't know to what extent, but I definitely would say it has an effect.
Very good. Okay, now before I let you go after this long day, just one last thing.
Right.
You are today here as let me just I want to bring up a comment that Yocheved wrote for me here for you. I can't, Yocheved, if you can bring up the book title from Amazon for Gideon Broken Values. You're also the president of the Jerusalem Washington Center, and so you're a guy who's out there, in the halls of power, connecting America and Israel. But for the last year, you've actually been not in the halls of power, but in the front line of battling. So you've almost a year now, and you and I are in a shared group. So I see your photos, I see your videos. I've posted some of your videos. So tell me a little bit about that. How has the last year been? Here you are now, like at a day talking about politics, but in reality, you've been in green and fighting and shooting and in dangerous situations. How do you see both of those things being synthesized?
Well, well, I'll give a sort of an anecdote. I was just in Lebanon for about a month, and in Lebanon, no one has cell phones. No one brings in cell phones for a variety of reasons, and therefore, there's time during the day when there's downtime. Either it's after the mission, or the mission is only in a few hours. And so some of the guys in my unit would say, Gideon, give us a little update on the American elections. Give us why does the American system work like this? Why? So that in that sense there was a sort of synthesis of both worlds, but it's been quite an experience. I was on 3 different fronts. For the first 5 months, I was on the northern border. And then I was 2 months in Gaza, and then I was 1 month in Lebanon. So I've really seen it all, and it's a it's a unique experience. It's also on the it's a privilege. It's a privilege to be fighting for our nation, for our country, for our people who, when if we think about it in the overall historical perspective of 2,000 years without an army, and now we have the privilege to have an army. And if we also think about the fact that we are the descendants of great warriors, of the Maccabees and other great warriors, King David and so forth. So it's special to be in that lineage. But it's obviously also taxing. I have a family and a wife at home with the kids. There's a lot of interesting things you see in war. I can say.
Well, actually, here let's take just a short video, a little bit about you talking after finding some caches of some incriminating stuff in Lebanon.
IDF infantry combat battalion operating in the Lebanese village of Khula in South Lebanon. This village is located less than a mile from the border. During the course of our operations in this village, we discovered a medical operations command center with an abundance of medical equipment, also infantry combat vests, uniforms enough for at least a squad of 12 soldiers.
All right, so I'm just pointing out that I just wanted to show you in actual uniform, and you're out there in these tough places. So first thing is, hats off to you, Gideon, and thank you so much for your service. Thank you for your service for Israel, explaining to us a connection between Israel and the United States, the good kind of connection, but and especially your fighting service and all the guys that were with you. Did you lose anybody throughout your time on these fronts?
In my battalion, we had a few wounded. In the overall brigade, which is like a few battalions, there were a few losses, and not in our battalion. But we mostly had only lightly to moderately wounded. So.
Right. Well, God bless those fighters of Israel, and God bless the Jewish state and the return of the Jewish people to the land of Israel. And today, God bless America as well. And we hope that this new president, this second-term president, who did so much good for Israel in his first term, will do good again. We're hopeful. We're pretty sure of it. Not just him, but also the team that he surrounded himself with previously. That was very important to note, which he also, not only was he pro-Israel, but he surrounded himself with highly pro-Israel members of his cabinet and his staff. That's very important. His family as well. But I also take up your challenge that you gave us, which is Israel's got to speak with clarity and make those policy determinations and move forward adroitly and with sure-footedness and with clarity and with the help of God, with a strong Jewish identity and a strong national identity, and that's what's going to be respected. And this isn't a time of opportunity to move that forward.
Exactly, and it's important to keep in mind he's not pro-Israel because he's nice or whatever, which he can be, but he's pro-Israel because Israel fits into his world outlook, and as long as we make sure that we fit into that world outlook, the relationship will be very, very strong and ultimately beneficial for both sides.
All right, Bezrat Hashem, with the help of God. Gideon Israel, thank you so much for joining us. And I let you go to your family. You haven't been home in practically a year, and also today all day doing media hits. God bless you, and thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
All right, folks, that was Gideon Israel. And let's take a little comedic moment, shall we? The folks at The Onion put out a great piece about these elections, and I thought it was really funny, and it would be kind of fun to show you. So here's a little bit from the good folks at The Onion.
Really interesting trends in a lot of key battleground states. Let's start with Pennsylvania with its coveted 19 electoral votes. And I want to focus for a moment on Erie County up here. This is a crucial swing county. It goes Trump in 2016, narrowly back to Biden in 2020. Now I want to go in even further than that. This right here, this is Mill Creek Township, District 2. Polls are showing momentum toward Harris in areas like this. But to really understand what's going on, let's go even closer, zoom in a little bit more, right here, right here. This is 114 Hilltop Lane. Now I want to take us inside the bedroom here. Bear with me. There we go. So this is Nick Camden, 37-year-old registered independent. He goes Hillary in 2016, Trump in 2020. Which way is he going to go in 2024? Really hard to say at this point. It's pretty early, but we know it's going to be close.
And Jason, what are you seeing inside this person that might indicate movement one way or another?
So this is just a very ordinary Rust Belt body, small town values, predominantly white. It's got the lungs, it's got the vascular system, the heart, but I actually want to show you what's in here. This is the neocortex and the amygdala. These are areas of the brain responsible for regulating emotion and memory. So let's play out a couple of scenarios here. If, for example, this man remembers his grandmother and the time she took him to an Al Gore rally in 1999, feels good about that, that's a win for the Democrats. On the other hand, take a look at this. This is the area of the brain that's associated with social interaction and groups, and we've seen it light up when Nick goes out for beers with his Trump-supporting coworkers. So we're looking at really a thin margin here. I want to show you something, actually. Let's come back out. Let's go past the rib cage, past the lungs, past the heart, past the tumor. Healthcare going to be a really big issue in this election, obviously. Past the DNA to what we're calling the source, the origin of life, existence itself, where all of humanity's answers can be found.
And can we zoom in further than that?
No.
Why not?
Because I'm scared. But what we can do is we can actually zoom out here, out of the DNA, out of Nick Camden, out of Erie, Pennsylvania, out of the solar system to the edges of our cosmos, where we see ultimately how meaningless this whole race really is and how insignificant all of our tiny little lives really are.
That is a big map. Thank you, Jason.
That was the folks at The Onion. And I think it was good humor and good fun. And speaking of good humor, there's more good humor out there. Here's a totally crazy video that I don't know if I should really watch, but a show. I watched it. I thought it was hilarious. It made me laugh. And this is remember I showed you before the minister of national security, Itamar Ben-Gvir. Well, somebody that either loves him or doesn't love him made a funky, crazy video called Itamar's Journey. Now, you got to know that Itamar Ben-Gvir is, a hardcore nationalist, and with and he's anti-jihad and he's pro-Temple Mount, and he's got a kind of macho demeanor. So this is maybe making fun of that. But what I like about this video is that it also shows the dream of what Israel kind of also wants to be. It wants to strive to be a lot of things at the same time. This is wacky. This is crazy. But let's just have some fun out there because, there's a lot going on and a little bit of humor is fun. So let's take a look here at Itamar's journey. It says the wonderful journey of Itamar. And here's a gave him too much. Okay, so obviously a wild film there, and it's I just thought, who would take the time to make a movie like that about the Minister of National Security? But the thing of the matter is that the idea there is that Israel's got a lot of these like internal wills. The Minister of National Security, Itamar, he wants Jews to have rights in the Third Temple. He wants to fight against jihadism. And in that movie, you saw him actually being friendly with Arabs. Why? Because internally, Israel also wants to be friendly with its neighbors. It wants to push back on bad guys, but it wants to get rid of people who hate it. But that doesn't mean we hate Arabs. It means we hate jihadism and terrorism. But culturally speaking, we are Middle Eastern people. And we have a Jerusalem, which is holy, but we also have, as you saw, a kind of Tel Aviv, a modern type city with its modern sensibilities, as opposed to Jerusalem, which is a more ancient and a more conservative values place. So the balance of these things, and we saw Itamar Ben-Gvir earlier talking about the opportunity of the Trump administration, the new Trump administration, to bring upon things like Jewish rights on the Temple Mount, or at least to recognize those rights. And so it's a moment of opportunity, and at the same time, it's not a simple war because we're still very much fighting. Akbar Zeb writes, Trump needs Mossab Hassan Yusuf as an advisor. Mossab Hassan Yusuf, the son of Hamas, the Green Prince, is certainly a person who should be an advisor to understand how to deal with Hamas. But Minister Ben-Gvir doesn't really need Mossab Hassan Yusuf, because he knows the things that Mossab Hassan Yusuf tells us about Hamas are things that people like Minister Ben-Gvir understand and know and get it kind of from their DNA. I did want to show you, though, before we go on to our next guest, I did want to show you a few things that are happening right now in Israel, because while there's this celebration about the elections, take a look at some of the stuff that's happening right now in Israel. This was a Hezbollah rocket that struck in northern Israel just today, caused that out-of-control fire. It's in Avivim in the north. Okay, there's rockets. Some have been shot down, but not all were successful. Very serious stuff. Then we also have
ending here.
Oh, this is not the video that I wanted to show. Let's show this video. This is soldiers in the north of Israel after having destroyed a Hezbollah bunker.
We are standing here. This was a bunker, an outpost of the Hezbollah that was watching inside Kibbutz Hanita. Kibbutz Hanita is right here, right there, 1 kilometer. It was sitting here inside the tree, inside the wood, and we get inside. The 646 Fire 2 Brigade. We destroyed this place, and this how we will bring the people, the citizens of Israel, to live back in the kibbutzim in the north. Am Yisrael Chai.
All right, so that's our soldiers out there, and they're saying we're trying to bring the Jewish people back to live in the north of Israel because a lot have been evacuated. And check out this video that the Iranians put out threatening Israel. This is what it looks like, the Iranian threat. not gonna show too much of it. The bottom line is that the Iranians are out there threatening Israel, and they mean business. And so this Trump administration that's coming in, it's not a joke. It's not just something to to just cheer about. There's something really real happening. And if you're doubting how real these rockets are, this is what was happening in central Israel today. There's rockets being shot down in central Israel on this very day. This is a person that's like on the ground because the sirens went off and there's interceptions of rockets right above that person's head. So these things are very real, and we are fighting a battle. Well, there's nobody that I fight better with in this world than my own beloved Malkah Fleischer. And this morning, Malkah and I were watching the Trump acceptance speech, and then a friend of ours came over just to have l'chaim because we were truly excited about the opportunity for a better globe. And of course, we thank God for that opportunity, and we hope to use it as best as possible. So let's see if we could get Malkah Fleischer onto the stage. Malkah, are you with us?
Do you hear me?
I hear you great.
Great. Well, Ishai, thanks for saying that you fight better with me than with other people.
No, I don't mean I fight. I fight alongside with you.
Yes.
Shoulder to shoulder, Malkah. Shoulder to shoulder.
Well, Ishai, we're
me and you, Malkah.
We've all been fighting here for a better future for Israel, of course. But that really the desire to win in this war is also a battle that is being fought for this region and really for the whole world. When I look at if you're just tuning into the show right now, we're talking about the victory of future president and former president of the United States, Donald Trump. And when I see him as a leader, excuse me, I recognize that he is potentially a volatile person and potentially an unpredictable person. But I also recognize that he is a person who is going to take no funny business when it comes to the security of his country. He has a strong track record with Israel, advocating for the strength and security of our country. And so I'm very happy today for the United States. I'm happy for Israel also, because I feel that now we really have a partner out there in the world, a strong partner, who recognizes the need to completely slash terrorism off this planet, and to make this world a safe place for good, law-abiding people.
That's right. And it's interesting that you say the word world, which I think that's very true. I think that we're talking about an inspiration for the world. Malkah, whatever you just did now, I hear myself. Whatever was done is not good. That's better.
Is it better now?
Yeah, much better.
Okay.
There's an inspiration for the world that nationalist leaders can stand up and that people will elect them. That people want that. They want family values. They want anti-jihad values. They want biblical values. They want common sense values. I had a very important person call me today, and he goes, "Victory for common sense." I think that's right. I think Americans don't want to see, men boxing in women's events. People don't want that. People don't want that. They just don't.
Right. And they don't want to live in a country in which the borders don't mean anything, in which citizenship doesn't mean anything, in which none of the things by which we guide our lives mean anything anymore. They want things to mean things. And so, I think that, I have friends, though, who, from previous iterations in life, people who were distinctly not Trump voters, and they're totally freaking out. One of them wrote on Facebook this morning, like, "What am I going to tell my children?" And I really have to say, alongside this issue of electing President Trump in the United States has been a certain mission to put mainstream media back in its place. The resentment that people have of not the excoriation of Trump, but the villainization of Trump, the villainization of their values. I think that in some ways, the vote for Trump, and a lot of people who voted for Trump can acknowledge that Trump is not like the perfect human being of existence of all time. Like, he is a person with flaws, and they were willing to accept those flaws because they felt that they were otherwise totally disempowered in this country, and that this was a person who was going to empower them and stand up against major forces that are silencing people all the time. So you have people now who have lost this election, as happens in democratic elections, right? Somebody's not winning in an election. But instead of how it used to be, Yishai, when you and I were growing up, where your candidate doesn't win, so you're like, oh, all right. Instead of that, it's like, it's the end of the universe. Hitler's in power. We can't survive this. We all have to move countries. Women. I literally saw people online today talking about how Trump is going to abolish the Constitution. So you have a media which has become so activist that it has inflamed the country, and people are afraid for the very fundamental future, like the very essence, the foundations of America.
I understand.
And I
You
find
saw
that to be a pity.
you were in line and you heard people talking about that. I understand what you meant.
I don't hear you so well, Isha. I'm sorry.
You heard somebody talking about abolishing Constitution
Yes.
in Israel?
No, the abolishing the Constitution in the United States.
You heard people in Israel talking
No,
about
not people in Israel. People in Israel are almost universally pro-Trump.
Oh, so
you have
you heard,
people. I'm
heard
talking
in
about
you were
friends
watching
in the
the
United
media.
States.
I see, okay.
Friends from across the aisle, from across the ocean.
I just want to make it clear to people that we're in Israel. I just want people to
Right.
understand that. I
Right.
don't want
We're
people
in
to get
Israel.
confused. Right.
And I'm talking about people over there. But what I'm talking about is the global effort toward returning to sanity and returning to security. When I look at the election of President Trump, it wouldn't affect me, except that this is like, we're dealing with global patterns that have to be altered. And I, for one, was in favor of Trump being elected, as much as I was also ready for Harris to be elected. If Harris was going to be elected, we were going to keep going and keep pushing for the strength and security of Israel, for rights of the Jewish people in our ancient ancestral homeland. But I'm glad that instead we have in the White House somebody who surrounds himself with people who understand that concept, and somebody who wants a return to sanity.
Amen. Okay, good. Malkah, let's take a look at some of people's comments. People have been, there was a lot of people watching. First, we have Salam from Pakistan. Bushra Ibkal writes right now to us from Pakistan. He says, Salam. And that's right, Salam from Pakistan. Salam to you, brother. And D. Cromwell writes, thank you for your prayers for America. Okay, and beautiful little hearts and flag of Israel, flag of the United States. We have more comments. Trump's victory, says Kanya Nedewa writes, Trump's victory is a modern day confirmation that those who bless Israel will be blessed, and those who harm Israel will face damnation for betraying Israel. Kamala and Biden have been woefully humiliated. There is definitely, it's a humiliation. It's a democracy. It's part of what happens. Go ahead, Malkah.
I just want to say something that I've noticed online today. I spent total transparency here. I spent a lot of time on Twitter today after this to understand what the atmosphere was. And I went to the accounts of a few very serious pro-Palestine movement activists to see how they're reacting. What I thought that I was going to see was a bunch of people who were really upset that Harris didn't win, that a person who would be an ally to them is not going to be in the White House, and feeling low that Harris had not won. That was obvious to me that that's what I was going to see. And I did not see that.
What'd you see?
What I saw was a lot a lot of accounts who are like, well, you supported the genocide in Gaza, and this is what you get.
That's
right.
wild.
It was
That's
interesting
wild.
because I asked myself, who is it that they think is going to be their candidate, right? Like, you gotta vote for someone, I guess. And maybe that's an indication that they felt that that the Palestine, because from our perspective, Yishai, Kamala Harris was clearly the pro-Palestine choice between Trump and Harris. What are we even talking about?
You know, Malkah, it's a psychological crutch that people use, that when they lose, they find a way to win. You know about the kid who was throwing up a ball and trying to swing at it with a bat at the same time. He threw it up and he swung at it. He swung 3 times. He missed every time. And then he goes, "What a pitcher!" You know, it's like it's a psychological crutch. Bottom line.
Well, I think that they also it was a certain kind of protest, Isha. You know, there was this other candidate, Jill Stein, I think was her name. There was this like third party candidate. I think she must have gotten like 600,000 votes in the whole United States, which is basically nothing. But they were just rejecting the whole thing. In their opinion, none of these candidates did what they wanted. Anyway, so they were not sad, interestingly, that Harris did not win.
Malkah, you know, the battle continues. And says Paul, good to see you going live. Yishai, I visited your lovely country 5 times already. Not Jewish, just a big fan of your country and people. I aim to come over next year. Again, God bless you, Paul. Thank you very much. And really blessings to you and blessings to all of those who love Israel. What is Israel? It's the spiritual capital of the world. It's a special place where you can connect. If your spirituality is attuned, you could really find something so special here. And thank you very much, Paul. What was that other? Bob says, Yishai, I like your podcasts. You're an educated voice from the land of Israel that I always watch from Boston, Massachusetts, USA. Shalom. God bless you, Bob, and God bless Boston and the good folks in Massachusetts. Malkah, the today is a few small hours of celebration. I think that what you said about those accounts is nothing but defensive posturing, because I think that in the end, they know that when Trump was in office last time, their whole thing shrank and was dried up and was demonetized. And now we have to keep doing that. We have to keep doing that in this administration. And I want to tell you, my friends that called me today, that spoke to me, we were all about deep breath. We got to get to work. We've got a lot of work to do now, because we all understand that this is a moment to push forward our dreams for the Jewish state and for this region. Okay, a lot of folks from around the world are standing with us. Malkah, I want to also close off the show because I have to go to a security meeting in our town. But, you know, before I end shows, I always like to leave us with a moment of inspiration. And here is Israel's number one pop singer, his number one kind of like singer on the radio and in concerts. His name is Omer Adam. And here he is in front of a crowd of 40,000 people singing one of the Psalms of King David, Shir HaMalot, Esayinai L'Arim Manya V'Ozri, a song of ascents. I will cast my eyes. I will cast my eyes to the mountains. From where will come my salvation? My salvation will come from God. Take a look at this. This is one of your favorites, Malkah. Okay, so that was Omer Adam.
That's amazing.
And
Look at that
isn't
crowd.
awesome? And he's out there and he's belting out, and everybody
beautiful,
knows
and everyone's
the
loving it.
words. Everybody knows the words of King David in the original Hebrew. Shila Malot Sinai Le'arim. Like, that's amazing. And that's also showing us that could it be that the war that was started on Simchas Torah, October 7th, brought back a spirit of Israel, a spirit of a fight, that also impacted the United States, that a different spirit came in. And even President Trump went to the tomb of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, got a little spirit of God, a little bit of strength, and then went on to it. And of course, he overcame a near assassination attempt and said that God spared him. He said it. He said it today's speech as well, the acceptance speech, the victory speech. He said, God saved me. It's for something great. And you could see that he knew it. It wasn't a joke. God saved him. And there is a force and spirit of God that is out there in the world. And you saw those 30,000 Jews just singing that song, belting it out, and really turning their eyes to God. So I want to also finish off the show by turning our eyes to God and thanking God for Israel, for Israel's battle, Israel's soldiers, Israel's continuous effort to strive to win. Please, God, be with us, strengthen us, and thank you for this gift of an American president that's going to help right the world in terms of values, anti-jihadism, pro-Bible, pro-family, pro-conservative classical values of humanity and freedom. Let's fight back against regimes that are out of control, the Iranian regime, the North Koreans, and others who want to sow havoc and untruth into this world. And so this is a moment where the world is getting back on kilter. It was kind of off kilter.
With God's help, we hope.
That's right. With God's help. That's what it's all about. And that's certainly our job here in Israel. We're supposed to refract and reflect into this world the light of God and share it with people. We're not necessarily supposed to be the superpower. It's supposed to be the spiritual superpower. And that's our role here. And so let's thank Hashem, and at the same time get busy to work for creating a better world. Connie says, shalom and blessings from Ottawa Valley in Canada. I'm so happy for Israel that Trump won, and I think I'm happy for the world. And in Canada, there is better candidates that could take that country's leadership and could turn it back into an even into a rational, common sense, pro-Bible, pro-family, anti-jihad type of policy. There's a lot of good people, and I think this is going to give impetus to those. If there's any last super chats that people want to throw in at this last minute, I'll let you do that just in the last final seconds, because I have to go to a security meeting in 10 minutes in this town. So thank you very much. I want to thank the team, Malkah, including yourself, for joining us, and I want to thank our team that are part of it. Malkah, thanks so much for everything you do. Keep up the good work. And Malkah, you're not only are you a wonderful lady, a great wife, you're also the head of a women's security forum here in Judea called Bayadayim Shalano, In Our Hands, which is very important and moving policies in the right direction. So thank you very much, Malkah, for being with us.
Thank you.
All right, folks, that's it. Blessings from the land of Israel. Believe me, I could have tens of other guests today. It's just that there's so much going on. So this is, I'm saying I'm going to have more of those guests. Everybody wants to talk about this moment. And let's thank Hashem. And let's also ask Hashem for the power to use this moment to move things forward. Reb Mordechai says, thank you, Yishai and Malkah. Thank you very much, Reb Mordechai, for being with us. Thank you for all the good people. Thanks to the team. And be strong. Shabbat Shalom. And by the way, this Shabbat is the Torah portion of Lech Lecha, where we get introduced to Abraham. And all of us should strive to be more Abrahamic in our life and in our lifestyle. Abraham, he's the great, he's the person that came into this world and changed the world. He was the person who found God and how to serve God. Let's go back to what some people call the Old Testament. Let's just call it the Testament, the Torah. Okay, let's go back to the Torah. Read again what Abraham was all about, and get strength from him. Very, very, very finally here, a great way to support what we do here is through buymeacoffee.com/Yishai. It is much appreciated. It supports our broadcasting, our team, and all the stuff that we do. Gets me a nice jacket to wear on the show. Just kidding. It doesn't do that. But what it does is it helps our broadcasting happen. And we are trying to do our job, which is to be a light unto the nations, to broadcast from Israel. We think that's part of our mandate. buymeacoffee.com/Yishai if you enjoy this broadcasting and think we should keep doing it. That's the way to do it. Just get us a cup of coffee. Thanks so much. Another way to support Israel is to fight for Israel. Fight for Israel.org is a way to support many of our projects, from beautification, renovation, tractors, and many other things that we do to spread Torah around the world, and to teach it, and to spread the light of the light of Abraham. I could say it that way, to the light of Abrahamic consciousness, God consciousness, and also to help our soldiers, to help all of the folks that fight for Israel, our frontline soldiers, including the folks that hold on to the land of Israel. Fightforisrael.org. And finally, the Jewish community of Hebron is where I work. Check out hebronfund.org. Watch the videos. Learn about the Tomb of the Patriarchs and Matriarchs, where the mamas and the papas are buried. This is a brave community that holds on strong to keep the place open for all of us. Come and visit it. Next time you're in the land of Israel, don't miss a visit to the tomb of Abraham, the tomb of Sarah, Isaac and Rebekah, Jacob and Leah. That's it, folks. Gotta run. Lots of blessings from the land of blessings. Thank you so much. And may this world be indeed blessed by this very special day. God bless you wherever you are, and shalom.